Okay, cool. Okay, so Suzanne asked me to just do a quick budget presentation. I was very happy to do that. I really just wanted to get to know you all and start building a relationship with you. And then as budget season is coming up soon, we thought it'd be a really good idea to just kind of go over some basics and a little bit more in-depth things here and there, but yeah, budget season's coming, and as it shows in this little gift, brace yourselves, it's coming. So it's always here, but let's just go through some details about what it is to budget and effectively budget and certain things like that. But how we know how to budget, that comes from Utah Code 10.6, and this is the Uniform Fiscal Procedures Act for Utah cities. This lists all sorts of things on how to budget, accounting process, budgeting, financial reporting, all sorts of things. Gives us all the requirements that we must follow as cities and towns, and they're not suggestions, but they're requirements, and so we have to follow certain things that go along with the code. I have seen situations where some cities and towns fail to comply with certain things. The state is actually really understanding, and they will give you some leeway as long as you're willing to fix the things that you may not be in compliance with. And so I'm actually helping a town that they had some issues, and we've worked with the auditors to go back and fix their issues and comply. So if you ever have a question or concern that you may not be in compliance with something, or maybe you just don't understand something in your budget, or just things here and there, you can always reach out to me, and I can help you answer any questions and fix any things that will help you get back into compliance. So anyway, some quick things about local government budgeting, just some high level things. Budgeting takes time, so always give yourself some time. Start early, start your budget process early. Now is great to start now, so it's good that we're having this conversation now in February, because we had June come fast. And so if you start early, the earlier the better, so you can get that all set, and so you can collaborate with your elected officials, with your staff, and get everyone involved who can make it a collaborative process and make it go as well as you can hope to have it go. Just having everyone involved in the budget process is really, those are the best budgets I've seen, is when you get your staff and your council, everyone involved, so that they know what's going on, so that they can lend their opinions and be helpful where they know different things. Like your staff will know different things than your council. Your staff may have different opinions about some things, and maybe able to point out some things with your funds that maybe the council doesn't know or doesn't think about. And same thing vice versa. The council may be able to have some different ideas and push for some efforts that you guys may need. And so getting everyone involved on the same page, having the same goals, that's really important. And then I do want to say, if at any time any of you have any questions for me, just stop me, and I can answer any of those. We'll try to answer any of those. And if I don't know what answer, I'll take it down and I'll get an answer for you and I'll get back with you. So, but yeah, just going along, your budget must comply with the state laws we already mentioned. One important thing that some towns don't understand is that your budget isn't set in stone when you accept it or adopt it. It can be amended over the course of the year as many times as you need to. Auditors don't like you changing it a ton, but if you need to make a budget amendment, go for it. As long as you follow the right procedure, the auditors are just fine with that. making sure that if something unexpected comes up, then you need to make a budget amendment, do it. Because you can't, a lot of budgeting is guesswork, and so you're just trying to do your best. And so you can't be perfect at the very beginning when you don't know everything that's gonna happen in the year. So don't be afraid to amend your budget, as you need to. Your budget's important because it covers the current and future needs that you have, the short and long-term goals. So think about that. Often I like to think about budgeting in like a 3-year span and a 5-year span. And so, keep that in mind as you think about your budgets and maybe even have different types of budgets for yourself or for your council, like a 3-year and a 5-year kind of thing. Just depending on what you need and what you like. So, lastly, the budget requires a majority vote. So the council all has to agree on it. And, so that has to happen before you can adopt it. Okay, going up. So planning matters, budget planning also matters. So, like you see in this picture, of course, planning does matter. Otherwise, a bridge doesn't get built across a river. You might make some mistakes here and there. So it's important that you plan, but it's also important that you plan for your budget too. You may not expect certain things to happen, and so planning your budget out and being mindful of all those things that may come, that's really important. This bottom image, your values, your spending. Your budget really does reflect your certain values for your town, for your city or your town. So for the city, the things that Francis may want to spend money on may be completely different than someone else. Somebody even right next to the campus, they might have different values. They might want to do different things with their funding. And so if you look at your budget versus someone else, you can really tell based on what your budget looks like, what you value in your community. If you looked at my budget, my personal budget, you'd probably say, oh, okay, I know exactly where your values are. They're right in Disneyland. And so my values on a personal level, they show you exactly where my spending goes and where my budget ends up. And so it's important to realize that and just know, get your community on the same page and get your council and your staff on the same page with what your values are and where you spend your money, because that's really important. Okay, so all of your budget decisions that you make can fit in this 2x2 box. This kind of thinking, this box will help you align your priorities. The one on the top left, this box shows you the things that you have and that you want to keep. Those things you want to continue doing. Those things like Francis itself, maybe your events that you do. You love those things, you have them, you want to keep them, they're going well. You continue doing those things. This top left box. These are the things that you don't have but you want. You might look at a different town, city or town, and say, hey, they're doing a good job with this. We want something like that. Those are the things that you want to start, and those are the things you want to budget. You want to think about budgeting to get. The bottom left square is those things that you don't have and you don't really want them. Or those are the things you do have but you don't want anymore. So those things are like, you just are like, this isn't effective. We might want to stop this or back this down. We're spending too much money on this, and we're kind of losing out on some other things that we could do because we're spending too much money on such and such. Those things you might want to stop. And then this bottom right is those things that you don't have and you don't want. You might see a city that's like doing something that you just are like, no, we can never have that here in Francis. Avoid those, and you'll keep your priorities straight. You'll align those how you want Any questions about anything so far?
No questions.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's keep going. Your budget officer, this person is gonna be, the most important person to get this process going and off the ground and get people where they need to be and talking about the right things. Oftentimes, the budget officer could be the mayor, or if the mayor wants somebody else to do it, they can appoint someone else to do it with council approval. So I'm not sure who yours is, but just when you appoint a budget officer, appoint somebody that is willing and able to get people to talk to each other and get on the same page. Get your staff and your council working as a team and talking about having the hard conversations about the money that you want to spend and you don't want to spend. This person has to be pretty knowledgeable. They have to know how to estimate, make revisions, make calculations, and just do the best they can for your town, for your city or town. So make sure you put somebody in place that knows what they're talking about and can, or if they need help, they know who to get help from too, so. Okay, here in government, we do government accounting, which is a bit different than in the private sector. We fund accounting, which means that we use separate funds to track our dollars, and that helps us ensure compliance with the legislature, helps us follow the rules that we need to, rather than general accounting, which everything goes into one fund, into one general ledger. You just track income and expenses. Our fund accounting is based on modified accrual. And so that just means that we report revenue when it's earned and available, but we report expenses when they're actually paid, rather than the other way, which is you track expenses when they come in and revenue the same. So, any questions about that?
No questions.
Pretty simple. Some of this stuff is pretty simple so far. Types of funds for your budget. You have to have government funds, proprietary funds, and fiduciary funds. Your government funds, we'll go into these three in this next slide, just real quick. Your government funds will include like your general fund, your special revenue fund, debt service and capital improvement. You have to have, the law requires that you have to have these funds. Your general fund, especially, that's where most of your government activities are gonna go through that fund. Your special revenue fund, those will be, specialized, specific funds that are restricted for specific purposes. Like if you have a road fund or an event fund. Your debt services, if you take out any debt, if you have a bond and you need to repay that bond, that's where that fund's gonna go. And then your capital improvement fund, that's a good one for if you're gonna do capital projects. I see that, you guys just have a new city hall building. You guys know this all too well, that your capital improvement fund probably is what funded, or the funding that went into that fund is probably what helped you guys do that project. Your proprietary funds will be your utility funds, your anything that brings in business type revenue to your city and charges a fee for service, those kind of things. And then other funds, you might have other funds at times, like if you open the library, you'll have a library fund, internal service fund, those kind of things. There's lots of different types of funds that you can put in your budget. Okay, so if you remember anything in the budget presentation today, I want you to remember these next 2 or 3 slides. These are the stages of the budget process. We've been having a lot of we've been having to remind some cities and towns, some really small ones especially, about the tentative budget process. So you have to have a tentative budget. That's your starting point. That's like your draft budget, and it has to be created for each fund, and it could be as simple as just taking that budget that you had last year and using the amounts to start out with that you ended your budget or are predicted to end your budget this year with as a starting point, and then going from there. But this tentative budget, it has to contain estimated revenue and expenditures for this next year. And each fund has to balance. We're in a balanced budget state. We have to balance our budgets. Everything has to equal zero, so or equal each other to balance. And then this tentative budget, you have to do. I recommend you do it at the beginning of May or earlier, so that you can have that done and you can start making any changes to your proposed and final budget before June gets to you. Because you only have until June 30th to adopt your proposed and final budget. And so if you do the tentative budget at the beginning of May, that'll give you enough time to make changes, to update your budget with the accurate amounts that you want to put in there. Once your tentative budget has been adopted, then you can make the changes like I was just saying and work on this annual final proposed budget. This is the one that the majority of the council must reach consensus on and vote to adopt it. It has to be done in a public hearing, and after you adopt it, you have to send it to the state auditor within 30 days of adoption. And so the sooner you get that adopted, the better, so that you're not running up against that June 30th deadline. And then this is just a quick budget timeline. Just gets those deadlines and then the requirements for both the tentative and your final budgets, and the notice posting reminders. So, any questions up to this point?
No questions.
Okay, awesome. That means everyone's probably asleep.
They're awake, they're engaged.
Let's see, I wish I was talking to you in person so I could
I know.
shake your hands and be face to face with you. So, here's the budget format. You've probably seen this many times. The state auditor requires this format, and it has to have these columns, including the most recent completed year, which is fiscal year 23-24, and then the estimated amounts for our current year, FY 24-25, and then your next year budget, the guesstimates of what you want those to be. This is all easily available on the resources.auditor.utah.gov website. So the Utah Auditor's website has this available. I'm sure Suzanne can guide you, because I think she probably looked at some of these. Any questions about this format?
No questions.
Okay, cool. So this is general fund revenues. This is Francis's general fund, and this is your tax revenues, and this is the FY 24-25 budget revenues that you predicted. It looks like, well, every town basically has three primary types of revenue. Property tax, sales taxes, and fees, charges, and then they have other revenues as well. Looks like you have some of these other revenues. The main one that you're gonna see, the most stable revenue source, is your property tax. This will stay the same unless you have growth or if you go through the truth and taxation process. And I'm sure that you guys have gone through that